Hello and welcome, Inspired Podcast community. This is your new episode. My name is Caroline, and my today's guest is Stewart Ervin. And I'm so happy that you said yes to our interview. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Caroline. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much. And I would love to introduce you to the audience, of course. You started your first business at 16 and you worked both in small businesses and large corporations. You gained valuable experience in operations and financial management. For the past 15 years, you focused on business turnaround and growth with a passion for helping small to medium sized businesses reach their full potential. Welcome to the Inspired Podcast, Stuart Irving.
There you go. That's me.
That's you. And my
Yeah.
first question, oh, I'm happy that it is you. I so it never occurred, but never say never that you mix up the bio
Yeah.
of your guests. Oh, I don't want that. I'm happy that this is you and that we meet today. What inspired you to start your first business at 16, and how did that experience shape your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah. So for me, I was lucky to have known at a very early age I wanted to go into business. I just didn't necessarily know what business that entailed. So was it small business, large entrepreneurship? And it really happened by luck. My dad had a company that was a wholesaler of a fence product. And so their customers started getting behind. And my dad was like, hey, I have two sons. They can help put up fence, and so that's where it really started from, was really just more or less helping out clients who were worked for my dad's business. And so once I learned that skill, I started just running the company on my own and marketing that service. And so again, it really was just by luck that it happened, but it really set the foundation for what would become what I am today. So, um, starting that first company, I owned that business for a little over 10 to 12 years. It allowed me to fund to get my master's degree, an MBA, that taught me, again, a lot of the skills that I utilize today. So had I not started that, I may or may not be where I am today.
Oh, I understand. And you mentioned something really important. You made the decision. You asked yourself, what would I love? And then it was not your words, I know, but this is what I read between your lines when you
Yeah,
were speaking, that you ask yourself and you made a choice that you want to have your own business, right?
that's right. Yeah. Yeah. So I spent the early part of my, or the late part of my teens and early part of my 20s really moving along the process. So it started as a small business. I got the opportunity to go work in a large global corporation, and then I went full time into self employment. I really wanted to try each one of those avenues, and so yes, that's where I was at. In 2010, I somewhat thought I was going to be a corporate guy forever. So I had tried everything. I liked the global environment. I liked the corporate setting, but I just felt like, I had picked up enough information that I was like, you know what, let's start this entrepreneurship journey again. So, luckily for me, in nearly every single case, the companies that hired me had that entrepreneurial spirit that allowed me to kind of blossom in that arena. And so I was blessed to better to somewhat, while I was working in a corporate environment, feel like it was an entrepreneurial type setup.
Wow, I love that. So what I learned now is that you were not inspired anymore to work in corporate, right?
Yeah, so I had this feeling that, I had gained so much strategy and knowledge over the last really 10 years, and that I had always worked for someone helping them turn their business around. And so I decided, you know what, it's time to take that strategy and everything I'd gained over the last 25 years and see if I could start helping a variety of businesses at the same time versus kind of being one business at a time. And so, yes, I made that leap, and we kind of rebranded and some things in 2019 and started Bracket back up.
Wow, I understand. And when you tell us this story, then it seems so easy. Everyone can do it. Normally, I think everyone has the ability and possibilities as well, or opportunity maybe. But you talked also about the foundation in your family's business, so to say,
Absolutely.
at the
Mhm.
age of 16, and that made it easier for you, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So it was starting working for my family business. I had to start at the very bottom and work my way all the way to the top. And what it taught me was how to run every part of the business and understand the inputs and outputs of the entire business. And so fast forward, I don't know, 10 years, 15 years later, I started doing business turnaround, and I was able to take that knowledge of what I learned at 16, 17, 18 and go, okay, wait a minute. If this is a problem at this point in the business, let's look upstream and look at the inputs and outputs of that process to figure out why we are in the position that we're in. And had I not started doing that and worked at the very bottom, I wouldn't understand the entire dynamic of the business. And so roughly 10 years ago, I thought, wow, this is all because of what I did at Southern Vinyl, right? And it has really set the framework and put me where I was at today.
Oh, it's so important to get to know every area in a business. You said you started from the bottom. I understand some people start at the top already when they are, I don't know, when they inherited those
Hmm.
positions or when,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
How you call it. Okay, my next question to you is, how have your experiences in both small businesses and large corporations influenced your approach to business turnaround and growth?
Yeah. So it's really primarily the experience in the small business that allowed me to take that to the large business, right? And so, um, probably the largest P&L that we were able to turn around was about an 80 million US dollar P&L, and they had gone backwards to 60 million. So that's fairly large. Um, but it was those things that I learned in a $3 million a year business that I was able to come right in and within 2 to 3 weeks say, this is your issue. Now let's go correct this and grow. Um, so again, a lot of times you got to understand that like in the small business, you're nimble. So I actually onboarded a client yesterday and I said, if this doesn't work within 3 hours, we can change it again. And so that's the nimbleness that you can do in a small business. And if you can get in the right large business that allows you to kind of have that flexibility to say, you know what, this might not work. We have to try it, but let's go because it's not working as it is today. So again, it's primarily the experience in the small business that allowed me to be moderately successful in the large.
Yes, that sounds great. That sound you have to be flexible and to change, and we call it pivot, right?
That's
If
right.
plans are not working out. So, and most people or businesses are not willing to do this, or even people, they refuse change or being
Absolutely.
changed. Hmm.
Absolutely. And a lot of times what you'll see is they'll be interested in change on the front end, but if you don't stay on it, in 2 to 3 months, you'll start seeing those bad habits creep back in, right? So you have to make sure that when as the change agent, that you're really driving lasting change. So the methodology that you go about facilitating that change is critical because you want it to last, right? And you don't want those bad habits to creep back in and all of a sudden you'll be back in the same exact position you were in. So how you go about managing that change is just as critical as the individuals or the company that want to change.
I love what you said, to manage change, and it's so important because you go back to your old habits. I
Absolutely.
don't say bad habits. Okay, you go
Yeah.
back to your old what you are used to be or used to how you used to work. And yeah, this is the question. How do you mm, I would call it persistent change. I don't know if this is appropriate, but
Yeah.
I read Napoleon Hill's chapter on
Uh,
persistence, Think and Grow Rich, and I'm sure you studied this book as well.
Absolutely. I have. Yes. Yeah. So how do I go about change? So for me, I'm a Lean Six Sigma black belt, and
Mhm.
so I utilize the DMAIC process. But the ultimate driver behind that is making sure that everyone from top to bottom that's involved in that process is involved and understands why you're changing. If most of the time, if people understand the why, they're much more inclined to get behind you and help drive the change. If you force the change, just because the nature of your role, they may go go about the change, but they may not accept it. Again, so if you include from top to bottom all the really the key parties involved and they understand why, they're much more inclined to get on board quicker.
Yes, that means they have to participate as well and, for example, share their opinions
Hmm.
or ideas as
That's right.
well, and
Hmm.
then they are involved and they support the change, right?
That's right. Absolutely. So again, they may not be involved in the entire process. They're going to be involved in the start. They're going to be definitely involved when it applies to something that they're a part of, and they're going to be involved in the end, so they understand. So it's critical. So many times you find that the individuals say, "I don't want to be a part of that, but I'd like to hear it." Okay, perfect. Just come on in and we'll show you what we're working on and we'll explain the why behind it. But you don't necessarily have to contribute. You can just listen. And again, I have found that that works great too. There's always going to be someone who can have a voice for the individual. But again, if they want to come in and listen, it would absolutely come in and take a look and see what's going on.
Oh, I love that idea. So no one is excluded. They don't
No,
have to participate actively, but they, yeah, not excluded. So there are no secrets,
that's right.
right?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people they're introverts, right? They don't want to go in there and speak in front
Mhm.
of 10 or 15 people, but they do want to have a voice and understand what's going on. A lot of times you'll see that'll flow through the individual that we've identified to represent them. And so again, it's when they're a part of it, they'll go back out on the floor or a part of their group and they'll talk. And then you'll just have the idea to start the bubble up and it really works out well.
Wow, I love that. Okay, thank you so much for sharing. My next question is, what common challenges do small to medium-sized businesses face, and how do you help them overcome these obstacles to reach their full potential?
Yeah, probably the most common challenge that you'll find in a small business is they are so busy trying to run their business, they don't work on their business. And additionally, a lot of times you'll see that the small business owner is looking at a set of data. We may look at our whatever our backlog is, what's how much money is in our checking account, how did we do last month? They really spend no time looking forward. And so the very first thing I try to attempt to do is to go into a facility and say, okay, let's at least put together a 30, 60, 90-day forecast to some extent. And so we can have some idea about what it looks like to go forward. And then, we just work that process. And so we'll come in and after that time, we'll do an annual budget. So that at least there's a North Star for what next year looks like. But my number one goal is to try to at least take 10% of the business owner or the president out of the working in the business to start working on the business and then set some type of a path forward that we understand where we're headed financially.
Wow, I see. Okay, 10% of the time to work on the business instead of in the business. Then
Hmm.
you have to watch your numbers. You talked about the, yeah, let's say the numbers of last month. It's not
Hmm.
so important as to forecast or to plan what you want to see in 30, 60, and 90 days, right?
Absolutely. That's
Mhm.
absolutely correct.
I love that. So how about your goals and intentions, and what is one of your next projects?
Yeah, so my goal and intentions are to help as many small businesses as I can. So I love small business. I have a heart for it, and it pains me greatly when I see a business struggle. So for me, I want to help as many small businesses as I can. But I also have another love, which is supply chain. So I got my start in supply chain early in my career in the corporate setting. So I'm working on launching a new business now that's in supply chain consulting, primarily focused on sourcing because I know that's a pain point in many purchasing organizations because they, much like small business owners, spend most of their time in the tactical side, firefighting, and they do not do a very good job of taking a step back and being strategic and having the sourcing backups. And so we've kind of soft launched that project, and you'll probably see more about that coming out on LinkedIn here soon.
Oh, I love that. So please connect to Stuart. He's amazing. He has information not many people have, and he's willing to share and to help and
Absolutely.
support you. And I don't know if you call yourself a coach, or but my next question is, yeah, sort of you consult businesses, but my question is about your coaches. Do you have coaches or mentors for yourself, and what was the best coach you ever had? Or
Yeah.
who
So
mhm.
I'm actually in the process now of vetting out a business coach for myself. So I'm a finance and ops guy by trade, and that's just kind of how my world works. I've done a decent amount of strategy, but I've never done sales execution. And so over the last 6 months, I've recognized that that is a major weak point in my repertoire per se. And so I have actually identified a sales coach who I'll be onboarding with him in the I'd say next 45 days to help strengthen that weak spot in my um, life, I guess you'd say. So again, because I understand finance and ops, greatly, but I desperately need help on the sales side.
Wow, I love that so much. So you identified something you need, or you accept support, because there are people not asking for help, so to say. And also you mentioned this is something you want to improve. So the recommendation is, of course, to, if there are fields you called it, not blind spot, but it was something with spot and
Yeah,
something. So
it's a
you
weak point for me.
a weak point, yes,
Yep,
a weak point, and the recommendation is to, when you identify weak points, to have a coach,
that's right.
right?
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
great. So thank you so much for your answers and our interview today. Now it's time to for your final thoughts to the audience, and please include, where can we find you?
Yeah. So again, I just want all small business owners to understand that there is options. A lot of times you'll see small business owners, they get to the end of their rope. They've either lost control of their business, they've reached a ceiling, and they just cannot understand how to get past that ceiling, or sometimes they just need help. And in today's world with the fractional CFOs and outsourced CEOs, there's a wide variety of options out there for help that'll help you break through that ceiling. And that's what we specialize in, is growth on not only the top line but EBITDA, but we help you grow that's healthy. We want you to make sure that the small business owner can sleep well at night, can go on vacation and enjoy their friends and family and whatnot. So if that's something that would be of interest to you, you can find me on LinkedIn, Stewart Ervin, but you can also check out my website at bracketmgmt.com, which is like bracket management shortened.
I love that. Thank you so much. This was an amazing interview,
Thank you.
and see you in the next episode.